I thought self-improvement would fix everything, so I went all in on the books, on the routines, on the habits. But there's the thing, after years of trying almost everything and reading countless of books, it really comes down to only 3 things that actually matters. And there is also one major mistake that almost everyone makes, including myself, when starting their own self-improvement journey. Struggling with your self-worth? Yeah. That sucks. I know that feeling all too well. I've also been battling my own mental health challenges. And on that journey, I went deep. And in the past few years, working in mental health and talking with a lot of different people from all over the world, I've seen what actually works and what's just noise. So when I was struggling with my own mental health battles, I knew that I had to change the way I looked at myself, even if I didn't fully believe it. For example, I knew that working out was really beneficial for me, and I struggled a little bit with going to the gym, so I had to start saying to myself that I am a person who works out, instead of I have to work out 3 times a week. And that point of view and that change really made me more motivated to go to the gym. And by going to the gym, I did better in my mental health. Okay, think of it this way, that if you view yourself as a lazy person that has to work out, you will always be fighting uphill. But if you reframe it to, I am a person who takes care of my body, going to the gym wouldn't feel as much of a chore anymore. It would be as something you do because you want to take care of yourself, because it fits who you are, who you view yourself as. And it's the same principle that Napoleon Hill wrote about almost a century ago in his book, Think and Grow Rich. He said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that line isn't just motivational fluff. So when you truly believe that you are the type of person capable of growth, your actions naturally align with that belief. Look at it this way. It's the difference between someone saying that I am trying to quit smoking versus someone saying I'm not a smoker. One is temporary. It's an action you're struggling against, and the other is permanent, which is an identity you have adopted. What's really interesting about this is that this isn't just a theory. Research from Stanford University has shown that when people tie their behaviors to their identity, they're far more likely to stick with them long term, because it's not about doing a task anymore. It's about being consistent with who you are, with who you view yourself. This is why identity beats habits every single time, because habits will be fragile if there's just something to do on your to-do list. But if they're grounded in identity, they will last, and then that core belief will intertwine with that habit. So instead of just thinking about what habits you need to do, think about the person you want to become, and then the habits will line up later. So what James Clear wrote about in Atomic Habits is the same principle as Napoleon Hill wrote about in Think and Grow Rich. Throughout this work of my own self-improvement journey, I've done so much research about it, and one of the psychologists, Albert Bandura, which is kind of like the father in social cognitive theory, he talked about something called self-efficacy. Basically, the belief in your own ability to act in line with who you think you are. The stronger that belief are, the more likely you are to follow through. In other words, your behavior sticks when it reinforces your self-belief. It's what James Clear said, it's what Napoleon Hill said. This is kind of one of the pillars of self-development. For example, in Atomic Habits, James Clear breaks this down into 3 steps. Let me see. This is his book. This is actually the Norwegian version, by the way. But he says that there are 3 levels of behavior change. It's outcome, process, and identity. And most people, they stop at outcomes. I have to lose 10 pounds. And someone will go deeper into the process. I'm going to work out 3 times a week. But the deepest layer to all of this is identity. I am a healthy, disciplined person. When your actions line up with your identity, that habits feel neutral. It feels less or not forced at all. This again ties down to what Napoleon Hill wrote and emphasizes the power of autosuggestion, repeating and visualizing affirmations of the kind of person you want to be until it sinks into your subconscious. That's how identity shifts. Not overnight, but through repeated, consistent reinforcement. So before you ask yourself what to do when you start your self-improvement journey, ask yourself who you want to become. Then the what will follow automatically. By the way, if you like this video, I would love for your support by liking it so I can continue to do what I love the most. I would say that this is confession time. I would go all in every January. I would be like a new year, new me, and I'd stack morning routine with meditation and a walk and then journaling and then working out, and I would stack a lot of new things that I wanted to do that kind of would be like, this is the new person I am. I would stack them upon each other. I would do cold showers. I would do gratitude lists. It would be kind of like a buffet of self-help. And yeah, I would say that it felt amazing in the first couple of weeks. I would be like, yeah, I'm transforming my life. Oh my God, I'm doing this. But then eventually I would crash hard, really hard. So instead of feeling kind of proud for my self-improvement journey, I would feel guilty because I started so many things and then I would quit. So I would feel like I was failing, and then it would kind of take me backwards. And I figured out that that is exactly the trap. It would be like kind of starting to sprint before you know how to walk. And what I, for me, had to remember is that change is slow. Like real change is slow. Sometimes real change is painfully slow, but real change is also sustainable, because real change will go deep into identity. And as we explained, identity triumphs habits. This is also what BJ Fogg talks about in Tiny Habits. He says, success doesn't come from huge effort. It comes from making things so small they're almost impossible to fail. It's like when you start to floss. If you just start by flossing one tooth, or if you want to work out, if you start by just doing 1 or 2 push-ups. When I say it like this, it kind of sounds ridiculous, but the point I'm trying to make is it's all about consistency. If you floss 1 tooth every single day, within a month, you've been flossing your whole mouth. And then if you do 1 or 2 push-ups one day, and you do this over time, it will be compounding. And then suddenly you will start to do 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And then doing push-up will be part of who you are. And it's about consistency, and it's about getting momentum and remembering that doing a little bit is always better than doing nothing. Think about it this way. It's like compounding interest in finances. Like $10 invested every single day throughout a year will always beat a random $1,000 lump that you invest once a year. Habits work the same way. So yeah, I really started January. I was like doing everything and doing all the great habits. But realizing this, I slowed down a little bit. I started scaling things down. So instead of thinking that I had to write a lot of things, I would just write a sentence. And when I was working out, I just started with the smallest of weights. And I went a lot of times to the gym, but every time I went to the gym, I did a little bit more than the last time. And what happened was I stuck with it. So look at it this way. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Or as Darren Hardy says in The Compound Effect, small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference. This is kind of what Tony Robbins echoes in almost every seminar he has. You can just look it up on YouTube. He says, it's not about what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but what we do consistently. And that's the truth. It's not one-off burst of motivation that defines us. It will always be the daily rituals. So when you think about building a better life for yourself, don't look for like the big major change, like that dramatic moment. Look for the small, repeatable actions you can do daily and commit to that, because that's what compounds into real transformation over time. And I can testament to that, because when I look back at my journey that I would say began almost 10 years ago and what I am today, I always think about on the hard days that it's all about just showing up and repeating instead of thinking about that I have to do a lot every time. Action over information. I would say like this one stings because I was guilty of this for so many years. I read so many self-help books. Like I gather someone around me right now, but like my library is bigger. I was convinced that reading was a part of the progress. And of course, it is to a degree. But here's the truth. Reading about doing push-ups won't make you stronger. It's like watching travel vlogs won't take you anywhere. And buying another productivity planner won't make you productive. And I would say like Napoleon Hill said it the best. Action is the real measure of intelligence. And I would say like that is one of the shifts that I had to make. Information without action is just entertainment. You feel really good in the moment, but nothing really changes. Psychologists even have a term for this. It's the illusion of competence. You think you learn because you know, but you really don't learn until you do. Stephen Covey warned about this in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said, spending your life preparing instead of executing. And David Allen's Getting Things Done makes the same point. Ideas mean nothing unless they translate into the next action. And I would say that Carol Dweck's mindset shows us that real growth only happens when you apply what you know, fail, and learn. So if you read countless of books, I would say that you are ready. You just have to do, and you also have to know that failing is a part of self-improvement journey. Apply what you know, fail, and learn. And honestly, this is kind of the same mindset that Ali Abdaal teaches in his YouTube Academy. Get going, get good. Don't wait until you've read all the books or planned the perfect system. You will only improve by doing reps. And for me, I would say that that would be kind of forcing myself to close the book and try something and be honest about that it wouldn't be perfect, and that would be okay. I would say like this channel, for example, I could have spent months reading about YouTube, watching YouTube channels, listening to podcasts about YouTube on how to make videos. But instead, I was thinking about this for a couple of days after deleting my social media accounts. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna write a script and hit record and just see what happens. And then I will learn as I go. And from the first video until this video, I've learned so much. but wouldn't have learned as much if I wouldn't have just would give myself to the imperfect process of just making videos and learning as I go and become 1% better each time. Because doing that is where the real learning starts. So if you're stuck in the research phase, I would just say stop, use what you know, and take messy, imperfect actions, and know that is where real growth starts. And this is kind of what I talk about in the video here, where I explain how I am surviving as a small YouTuber. And now the big one. I would say this is the biggest mistake that almost everyone makes when they start a self-improvement journey. And I made it too. And maybe you're making it right now. It was kind of this big mistake that held me back for a really long time, keeping me stuck no matter how many books I read, or how many tools I tried, or how many habits. And that is the thought of trying to fix myself. The mindset of I am broken, and if I just read enough or do enough, I will be okay. I would say that I lived there for years. I thought that the next book or the next podcast or the next video would happen and that I would be fixed. But continuing on that journey, that really never happened. And what I figured out is there's why. When you see yourself as broken, everything you do comes from a place of lack. No matter how many wins you have, you would think it's not enough. I thought that a lot because that was my core belief. I would say to myself, I'm not good enough. I maybe wouldn't use those words, but that was always what I thought. I would be like, if I just do this, I would be good enough. If I just read through this book and started doing this thing, I would be better. Like there would be some kind of magical thing that would happen to me. But the truth is, you're not broken. You're human. You're learning. I had to say that to myself in the mirror so many times. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, said something that put this into great perspective, I would say. He says that the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. And that's it. Real growth starts when you start to accept yourself. And this is the same idea you will find in mindfulness. Suffering comes from resisting what is. The moment you accept where you are, you create space for change. For example, Jay Shetty, I think also I have his book. This, also the Norwegian version. Jay Shetty, who actually spent years as a monk before he became a great YouTuber and writing the book Think Like a Monk, he explains this really beautifully. He says that peace doesn't come from changing your circumstance, but from changing how you relate to them. And from there, self-improvement isn't about fixing. Self-improvement, it's all about growing. It's not about saying, how do I stop being broke? It's about how can I build on the person I already am? How can I be better instead of how can I change? And that's the shift that freed me. And I would hope that it frees you from that endless loop, because honestly, just shifting that perspective freed me. If you like this video, I think you would really connect with this one where I talk about my mental health journey and how I learned to live with my anxiety. You can watch it here. Until next time, I see you.